TG Geeks, episode 203, January 7th, 2019. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year. What? Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery and everything in the geekosphere. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from rested TG Squared Studios in lovely, cold Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow, that's a lot I got to think about. Okay, and this is Ben Raggington coming to you from, coming to you with the Winter Phlegm. Sorry if you hear me...
Winter Phlegm?
Yeah, the Winter Phlegm. So sorry if you hear me cough or clear my voice.
Yeah.
Coming to you from very cold, colder than the rest of the world,
Yeah.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Actually warming up today.
Yeah, a bit warm. And did you just say geekosphere?
I said the geekosphere.
I did. And I
and
would...
that's the podosphere, too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call... This is more like the dusted TG Squared Studios.
The dusted.
Instead of the rested.
Yeah, we just came back from vacation.
I know. I was
so-
like, do we even remember how to do this?
I know. It's like, oh my gosh. So we got some interesting things for you in this episode. So
Prepare for hyperdrive.
In this
In the hall
episode...
of episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
so you stomped all over it.
Whoa, I didn't know
I knew you were going to. So
I didn't even know that was there.
here we go.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
Where did that come from?
From your wonderful friend, Mr. Tim Calloway.
Tim did that. Oh, so that, okay. Happy New Year surprise. I had no idea he had done that for us.
Yes, I tried to keep it as much as a secret as I could. In fact, that's one of the things I was doing this morning when I couldn't sleep.
Wow. Far out. Okay,
I was-
well, I don't have to do that anymore then.
Editing that down and adding a little bit of...
Reverb and whatever.
yes.
I'm sure he probably put a lot of post in himself.
No, he just recorded it. He gave us about 6 different options. So,
Well, far out. Well, thank you, Tim.
well, I paid for it too. So,
Oh, well. Well, that's the decent thing. But, Tim would have done it for free.
well,
Because it's us, but at the same time, it's only proper to pay for him. But nonetheless, thank you, Tim.
yeah. So one more time.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
And in this episode, we do have an interview with Mr. Matt Hayes. He has a brand new film out. He just finished it in December, or finished the editing and all
Editing
the
was
post and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff in December. And we're going to talk to him about that film and what it means. We got our birthday shout-outs. We have our featured podcast of the week, which actually is going to be us. I just stuck that in there. I mean, it's a new year.
Might as well.
May as well.
Let's be self-indulgent. What the heck?
Absolutely. And everybody's favorite feedback. And we have a voicemail feedback this time as well. And then in our second segment, we're going to talk about the website updates and a few other things, a weekly recap. And then, as always, please don't stop listening when we get to the follow-up items. There's a couple of
stay to
interesting
the
things.
end,
Yeah, stay to the end. You never know. We've had a couple of little tags on the very, very end of the episode occasionally. So we're going to get right into this interview segment with Mr. Matt Hayes. And we welcome to the show Mr. Matt Hayes. He is a filmmaker, and he has a very interesting film that we're going to talk about. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So tell us about who is Matt Hayes, and then we'll kind of segue into...
He giggles.
Yeah.
He giggles at that. Okay, I'm nervous now.
I'm still trying to find out the answer to that question myself.
I
Who is
see.
Matt Hayes?
Well, I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Wow, let's see, who is Matt Hayes? So I'm originally from Alabama, so I have some Southern roots, and I'm very proud of them. But I live in LA now, and I've kind of lived all over doing shows and stuff. I was a stage performer before I came to LA. I still do a lot of stage work, but that part of my career was taking me all over the world for a few years. So yeah, I traveled on cruise ships and regional theater productions and tours, and performed at every theme park in the country, I feel like, and dinner theater. And then I made my way to Los Angeles a little over 5 years ago, and started on what I thought was a one clear track direction in LA, that being of an actor. And then I decided that there were stories that I wanted to tell that weren't being told, and also I just liked to work. And if you're not a regular on a series, you're not working every day, and that's not fulfilling. So you have to find ways to keep your artistic flame lit.
Yeah.
So I, as part of that, I feel like part of my duty as a filmmaker and actor is also as a voice, as an activist. We spoke a little bit about that in the pre-interview, but I do find being an activist part of my job, and being a voice for people that don't have a larger voice.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot. I mean,
I have to ask this question. I've seen photos of you on Instagram as well.
Oh, gosh.
Well, no, the reason I say that is, I mean, you look rather young. So after hearing everything that you've done leading up to your
sound like
eventual...
you're 105 years
Well,
old.
no, I was going to say, did you start this when you were 10?
To my skincare specialist.
I mean, were you 10 years old when you began your career?
Gosh, well, kind of. I mean, growing up, Alabama's not known for the arts, but thankfully my parents, were always super supportive of allowing me to explore, my creative sides. And so I was, doing choirs and plays and everything. So in a sense, that is kind of where a performer's career starts, is when they're a kid. And thankfully, I mean, I really do thank God that my parents allowed me to do those things, and support me fully, because it allowed me to, to think that I could pursue that as a living, and it's allowed me to be where I am now. But I did start, I was performing, in show choirs and church choirs, and plays at school and everything. And in college too, I studied fine arts and musical theater, and did choir there. And so right after college, I got my first acting job, and I never stopped really. I mean, I was in Dillon, Colorado, at a little summer stock theater company. And we did, I think, 3 plays in like 3 months. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I just literally went from there to, gosh, if I think about the track of like where I've gone, like from job to job, it's almost nauseating, because it's like, how did I just pick up? Because I don't like to leave my house now, but like for years, I was literally like going from job to job to job to job all over the country and world.
You were a vagabond.
So yeah, I mean, literally a gypsy. And then, yeah, I've not even thought about that in so long. That's so wild. But so I was really hustling, from job to job for a while. And then 5 years ago, came to LA and started, exploring more into filmmaking and that kind of thing. So yeah, but we're not going to discuss the number of my age. In LA, we always joke about, you never say your age, you say what ages you can play.
Yes,
that's true. That is totally true.
Well, we make no bones about we are old farts. So.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, we're starting to push 60.
We are of an age.
Right. Well, God willing, I will also be of an age someday. That's what I mean.
Be of an age?
Of course, want to be youthful, but I also want to be able to grow old. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I make no qualms about getting older.
Yeah. So this is really fascinating to hear what you've done, and that you've decided to make a film in your off times. Tell us about the film that you are making currently. We heard about this, or Ben discovered this
I found this on Instagram, and I saw I believe it was a Kickstarter program that you had going for it, and that's when I started exploring it and thought, well, this sounds somewhat interesting, but I'd rather hear it come from you.
Yeah, it's always funny, because when people hear the premise, they're like, what in the world? And then they hear the detailed version of it, and it's like, oh yeah, I know that world.
Well, when he told me about it, it was like, I had a little trepidation. It's like, where is this going from? And then when I looked at the website and all of that, then it made sense. And I said, oh, absolutely, we'll talk to him.
Yeah. Well, and this is, the film kind of came about. I mean, it's so. I mean, I have a ton of scripts and just treatments and one sheets that I've written, and just it's with the idea of like, oh, I'd love to get this produced. I would love to get this made, or filmed for a spec or something. And things never came into fruition. I was going forward on some projects and they just never worked out or whatever. It's just part of this industry. And about, it was August 24th. So what's that like? I mean, just over 2 months ago. I work at a studio called Speedreel Studios, and they're actually in co-production with me for this film. But Jessalyn Gilsig is an actress, and she owns the studios. She was in Glee, she was in Vikings, Scandal, Nip Tuck, Boston Legal. Like, she's big time. And she owns the studios, and we do reel edits, like for people's reels, and we do reel shoots where we shoot people's footage for reels, and we also do self-tapes, because in this industry, most auditions are done through the ether now, and so we film people's self-tapes in a professional studio setting.
Wow.
And we were setting up a new depth to play with for reel shoots, and we just needed something to put on tape just to see, what the depth looked like with lighting and stuff. And I was like, well, I've got a monologue I've been kind of like thinking about, while I'm driving or whatever. And so let me put that on real quick. And so we filmed this like 4.5 minute monologue that I had just literally pulled out of my butt. And she finished and she was like, oh my God, you need to develop this. I was like, yeah, I kind of thought about it, whatever. And she's like, no, you need to develop this. And so I was like, okay, whatever. So I go home that night, and like a bottle of wine later, I come up with a 30-page script. And so I literally came back the next day with about a 30-page script, and I was like, I think I have something. And she was like, yeah, I mean, and this is like, my acting teacher is Jeffrey Marcus, and he's a big part of my career and like my inspiration. And he was saying that a few weeks ago how, the people that find sustainability within our industry are the ones who have stories that have to be told. Their need to tell a story is so desperate that that's kind of what propels and sustains them. And for me, this story is one that I was losing sleep over. I just, after I did that monologue and came up with that first draft, I just was like, I have to do this. I have to do this. Like, I can't live if I can't do this. And because it's autobiographical, and when you'll understand how awful that is when we hear the premise. But so that's how it came about, and we started just kind of whittling away, and because 30 pages is a very long draft for what we were hoping to do as a short or a featurette. And I really wanted to do a featurette, which is, anything in the ballpark of like, 30, 40 minutes or whatever.
Right.
But most festivals don't have outlets for featurettes. There's a few that do, but it's just not as widespread. And,
right.
and shorts is a much better way to get your message out. And so we whittled down the script, and I just started kind of pitching it to some of the names that I work with. And people were so interested in it. And we're like, oh, I would love to do this. Let's make it happen. And I was like, well, okay. And so then, I guess maybe about a month and a half ago, I drunkenly started. See, there's a moral of the story. There's a lot of alcohol in my life that leads to my art. So at 2 a.m., I had just gotten back from like drinks with friends, and I was like, I'm going to launch an Indiegogo campaign at 2 a.m. on a Friday morning. Which anybody that has ever launched a Kickstarter knows that there's an art to launching crowdsourcing. There is rules, and the one and two rules are: don't launch in the middle of the night, don't launch going into a weekend. You need to launch after a week of like prepping your crowd, like your social media base with the news that there's going to be a crowdsourcing campaign coming up, and I did none of that.
You're over 30.
I launched at like 2 a.m. and I went to bed, and the next morning, like, money was coming in, and I was like, oh wow. And so my original goal for this film was $5,000. I was like, I can really get this thing made cheaply, wearing all the hats and like doing everything myself, for about $5,000, which is, and that sounds like a lot of money to, I think, people who don't make films, but anyone who has ever like picks
That's
up
a
a camera
lot.
knows
It's
that's
not
impossible.
much.
And so, because this was my first like solo project, I just didn't want to assume that, like, because I believed in this project that everyone else is going to as well, which it's kind of a lesson learned that, like, you need to believe in your own stuff anyway. But so money started coming in, and within 3 days we hit $5,000.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I was just because I hate asking for things. It's just not in my nature to be like, can you please support me in this way and like give me your money? Now I'm all about that life. But at that time, a month and a half ago, it was not easy for me to do. And so after 3 days, we hit $5,000, and then in 6 days, we hit $10,000. And I was like, oh gosh, like, what a blessing. And then everyone's like, you need to keep going with this. Like, there's expenses that you don't even know about yet that are going to occur from this film. And so I was like, fine. So I kept, because it was so exhausting. It's literally it's a full-time job. I mean, you're posting, you are, giving people shout outs on social media. You're doing Facebook Lives, like you're doing Instagram Lives. It's exhausting. And so I was on for 3-4 weeks. And by the end of the third week, we were at $16,200. And that's 320% of what my goal was.
Wow.
So, and Indiegogo actually had us featured on their arts and film page too. For about a week and a half, I think we were number 3 on their page, which is huge for this, very small budget project. But it's just because of the attention that it was getting on social media. And so all that to say, we can talk about the premise now. Since we built up the suspense of like how we got there. But so did either of you guys grow up with a church by chance?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ex-Mormon.
I was the male grandchild, of a Irish Catholic family. So I was supposed to be the priest.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm ex-Mormon, and having served a mission in the Bible Belt, I'm very familiar with some of the more evangelical, even charismatic approaches to organized religion and their beliefs.
Yeah. And I don't paint organized religion in a bad light, because there's flaws in anything that has a community, but I do think there's a lot of like rhetoric that has to change for the sake of people's lives, and not being traumatized or even lost through suicide and addictions and stuff. But and first of all, you being Mormon, did you ever see the movie Latter Days?
Yes. I cried.
Oh my God.
I had to see it. Again, you're talking to an ex-Mormon who served a mission, fell in love with another missionary.
Right.
That was my freaking story.
Oh, yeah. No, I used to watch that movie like once a week during my own coming to a healing place in my life through religion and sexuality, and that I loved that movie. And yeah, I love Latter Days.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so when I was growing up in the church, kids' minds are very formative and very moldable. And I think that's one of the messages we touch on in the film, is just giving people the power to create someone else's point of view, that being, the pastor or a church leader. And that's kind of scary to me, especially as I'm like in, the child rearing years. Currently, like thinking about having kids is kind of scary, and that like, oh my gosh, like their teacher, they're anyone who is in an authoritative position has a chance to like create what they think about life. And that just is really scary to me. And me growing up in the church, hearing the message that the punishment for being gay was AIDS, which is essentially what the church taught in, early and mid 90s. Oh, there we go. There's my age. I know it slipped. I just thought that I had AIDS growing up. With like 8, 9, and 10 years old, I thought I had AIDS.
Oh my God.
And and it wasn't because someone said, that you had AIDS. It's just because I formulated in my developing mind that if I am told that the punishment for gay is AIDS, and then at school, people were making fun of me for being different because I liked piano and I liked to sing, so obviously I must be gay. And so,
2 and 2.
equating those two things, then I must have AIDS. And I knew I wasn't going to get to grow up. And people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up and everything? And I would always have an answer, of course, but I knew in my mind that I wasn't going to grow up.
Wow.
And it wasn't like a depressed thing. It was just like, oh, this is what God has for my life. Like, I was almost at peace about it. And and in the film, we do have a scene where we discover the moment he realizes he doesn't have AIDS, but I don't remember when that was. So that was a bit Hollywoodized for the film. But in my life, I don't remember when it was that I learned that I was going to get to grow up. But I just remember knowing that I was going to get to grow up at some point. But so I did this monologue that was just kind of telling what I just told you guys. And that's when Justin was like, you need to develop this. And so I did. And I worked, my mentor is Del Shores. Are you familiar with his work, Sordid Lives? And Sort of
love Sordid Lives.
Yeah. So he's a mentor and friend of mine, and I worked with he and Emerson and with their production company. And so he was a big part of helping me get this script whittled down into a true storytelling fashion. And then Del Shores is a big writer and director. But most people don't know that he started as an actor, but he doesn't really act anymore, obviously, because he's just too busy directing and writing. And I just said, I have this role of like the childhood preacher in my film, and I really would love if you could think about doing it. And without any hesitation, he was like, of course, I have to do this. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So my film is going to be a chance for everyone who loves Del Shores to see Del Shores act, and he's so freaking good in it. It's scary. He allowed me to direct him in a way that was very opposite of what his instincts were, which was so fulfilling to me to direct someone who directs me. Mm-hmm. But it was, I have this idea about a lot of those pastors of love-based hate. And because the message that they teach, if you read a script, it sounds so hateful and so bigoted, but it comes, oddly enough, from this place of love, and I use that term loosely. And when I say it comes from a place of love, I mean it comes from a place of warmth and passion. And because they're delivering this message that they sincerely believe is helping people, but in reality, it's really harming people. And not even just directly, but I look at myself, 20 some odd years later after, thinking that I had AIDS, and I'm still traumatized by this experience in the church growing up. And, and struggling with, am I good enough for God? Am I good enough for my family? Am I good enough for myself? And that will never go away, I don't think. But this film has helped me to know that I can speak to those little kids who are still in those church pews being told that they're worthless. That's been a lot of my own healing, to know that I'm combating the negative energy that's coming from some of the pulpits. And not all the pulpits, because there are, I go to a church in LA that's Hollywood United Methodist, and they're very progressive and very open and affirming. And
I'm familiar with those.
Is that the one right there at Highland? And
it sure is. It sure is.
Yeah.
They actually are. We have our associate minister, Denise Barnes. She's actually a part of this film in a sense as well, because I went to that church for the first time on Easter last year. And it's not that I was like agnostic or atheist. I just, wasn't very practicing in my faith, aside from internally. And I saw her speak, and I was like, oh my gosh, this lesbian has a voice in this Protestant congregation. Holy cow. And it just spoke so loudly to me that she was able to stand at a pulpit and has found this way to mesh her sexuality and her faith. It was beautiful to me. And so I actually wrote a character and it's played by Jessalyn Gilsig in my film, of this progressive minister who just relays this message of love. And she has this line that I wrote that I hope is one of the takeaways for audience members. But she says that one of the ways that we love God is by loving ourselves. Mm-hmm. And because
Absolutely.
God is in all of us, if you believe in that higher power. I think that we do, she says in her sermon, that we do a disservice to not only to God and to ourselves, but also to the community of these Christ followers if we don't love ourselves. And that's loving who God created in you. And for me, I believe that God created in me a man that loves other men.
No argument.
And so I know that we talked about things we won't discuss, but we didn't say religion, but it's a big part of this film.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely fine.
But there's the kid timeline in the film. There's also my character's timeline. That both it's the same person, just in different timelines, obviously. But they're both searching for one message, and that's to be told that they're okay. And that's the whole message of the film, is you are okay. And I actually had some shirts made for my cast and crew, and the front of it just says "You are okay," and then the back of it has our film logo. But I'm hoping to, off the success of Dear Evan Hansen and that concept is, I want there to be a larger message to this film, and not just entertainment and not just a takeaway message, but almost a campaign of just letting people know, because it's not just an LGBTQ issue. We all want to be told that we're okay. That's all that we want in life. And so I want that to be the takeaway message, and so I had these shirts made, and I'm hoping that my cast and crew can wear them at festivals and stuff, because I want that to be what people leave the theater, seeing, is that we are doing this as artists, who do want to feel fulfilled artistically, but
it
like
has a message.
Earlier, part of my career is activism, and that's why I think this film is doing so well before release, because we're just also passionate about getting that message told, is that you're okay.
Right. So how long do you anticipate the short being? I'm not trying to pin you down, but do you have some idea?
Yes. So most festivals, anything over 15 minutes is just not allowed into short categories. And so we are aiming to be like 14 and a half, because there's a lot to tell in this film, and there's a lot of great footage that I refuse to let go of.
Right.
And so, we're aiming at like 14 and a half minutes. And I do have treatments for like a full feature and also a mini series that I would love. Yeah. It's that line. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I was going to ask, have you thought of looking at this as possibly a proof of concept and turning this into a feature film? Because I look at a lot of gay cinema that's out there today, and while we're finally beginning to break out of that, I know that coming out of the 80s, there was a lot of AIDS-related films, and we're finally, then we kind of broke into this whole coming out kind of cinema. Now we're growing out of that, and now there's a certain maturity that's, I think, taking place in a lot of gay films.
Looking at live and life in general, and how did you overcome these things, and all of that.
And right now, one that is becoming that's beginning to gain some kind of traction is this whole sexuality versus spirituality. I think that's maybe the next big topic. Keith and I saw Boy Erased just a couple of nights ago. There are other movies that are maybe not quite as high profile that are touching on that, and now you've got this one that is still taking that topic and kind of giving it a twist with that whole AIDS guilt thing. So with that, have you thought about maybe thinking, this could be proof of concept, because it sounds like you've got a lot of material here for a full-length feature film?
Yeah, we really do, because there's a lot of like potential storylines that are already built into this short. Even like there's I don't want to give like anything away, but there's a scene that we wrote with a school nurse, and she's played by Erica Tazel, who is a fierce actress. She was in Justified on FX. She was on The Good Fight on CBS. She was in Roots. I mean, she's also big time, and she's, to have Del Shore's Erica Tazel and Jessalyn Gilsig in my film is going to do so well for us. But also on a personal level, it's just humbling that these people who are working for Ryan Murphy, and they're working for Shonda Rhimes, and they're working for these huge names, and they're willing to do my project for next to no money because they love the message of what it says. Right. It's just been such a rewarding experience. But so I do have aspirations to get this into larger audiences. And everything has been so surreal with production, and that everything has fallen into place with money, with casting, with locations. We actually shot at that church, the Hollywood United Methodist Church. We shot in that huge cathedral. And it's just, this is my first solo project, and to have my film crew, set up and load in this massive, iconic LA cathedral, with the Jesus stained glass window behind Jessalyn Gilsig, and it's just been that's the highlight of my life to produce this film. And then I think it's not going to stop, and that we're going to see how many people it affects. And the conversation I've already started getting some hate on social media from people sending me messages, and not hate in terms of you're awful, but hate as in I'm praying for you. I wish that you would come back around, all this stuff. And I know, and I'm like, you are the people that need to see this film the most, because
Right.
you are the reason that people at 30 some odd years old are still in therapy and still having to like look for validation in others or in vices.
Right.
And it's almost like, so when you're doing like a drug study on a new prescription drug or something, and you don't really know the full effects of what it's going to be, and it maybe looks like it's doing its job in the beginning, but in the long term, it's actually doing more harm than good. And that's kind of the way that I look at a lot of the rhetoric from the church, is that they think they're doing some good and helping people overcome what they see as a sin. But in reality, it's doing so much more harm than good in the end, because these young men are not able to, they don't ever feel like they can love fully because of being told that their love is invalid.
Mm-hmm.
And so this film speaks to that. And just seeing these two timelines represented, it speaks to the harmful effects of the church rhetoric. And that's what I'm hoping, because I don't want church to be painted in a negative light. It does a lot. It's done great things for my life. It does a lot of great things for communities and homeless people and families. But there is rhetoric that has to change.
Yep.
And it's a life or death matter to me.
Yeah, we are loosely associated with the United Church of Christ. In fact, the general minister of the United Church of Christ is a personal friend of ours. So, and they really try to, acceptance of all people, no matter where you are, is their big thing. So, and this is really fascinating, and we probably have to have you on.
Yeah, I definitely want to have you on again
once the film is finished. And
Right.
I wish we could talk more.
I know.
now,
because there's so much that I want to cover. There's so much that I want to talk about. Not just the movie, but your approach to the film, how you made it. Unfortunately, we're hitting some time constraints, so we'll definitely have you on again. In the meantime,
good.
Oh God, I want to have you on again. I really, really do. In the meantime, though,
me too.
If people want to learn more about your movie, now, granted, you said it's currently in post production right now. You hope to have it out in the theaters, but if they want to learn about where it's at, how can they follow your film? Where is it on social media? Where are you on social media, in case they want to learn more about what you're doing?
Since we're old, we call it the Facebook, the Twitter,
the MySpace.
Do you remember those days? Do you remember those days when it was thefacebook.com?
No.
God, no, that was before we. That was when it was exclusive. You could only be on when you were invited.
Yeah, you had to have a college email address, like a .edu email address, in order to be on thefacebook.com.
Oh yeah, I'm not good enough.
I'm one of the OGs back in like 06. Yeah, but yeah, but you can. I'm all over social media, good and bad. My Facebook is all my social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all at Matt J Hayes. Matt has one T in it, so it's MATJ Hayes, HAYES. And then on Facebook, you can find my fan page, which is Matt Hayes Actor, M-A-T Hayes Actor. And then Cognitive, the film, is Facebook. I think it's just Cognitive Film. And all three of those will have information about the films, festival releases. I'm doing a lot of behind-the-scenes photos. I've got a lot of interviews with my cast. And I have to shout out, too, just real quick, the kid that plays the young version of my character, Zachary Reisinger. He's about to be a megastar. The way that he brought life to this character, that at first glance seems like it would be very depressing, is just ridiculous. He's just the fiercest little actor and the sweetest kid, and he's a huge advocate for equality. I mean, he's 9 years old.
Wow.
And it's like going on Facebook Live to talk about how love is love, and everyone should have the chance. I mean, it's just so. He brought me to tears on multiple occasions throughout this production.
Well, that's cool.
Wow,
well,
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting.
I really want to see this film.
Thank you for being on the show.
Well, I will make sure you guys get a link as soon as we have a final picture.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on the show with us.
And look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, for sure. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jason Carney of the Phoenix Film Festival. You're listening to all the cool geek stuff in the world on the Two Gay Geeks podcast.
And I stuck that in there just because Matt has actually
because of his film, and he submitted it to the
he
Phoenix Film
submitted
Festival.
it to the Phoenix Film Festival. I hope they pick it up.
I do too.
You never know. We'll see. And we have our birthdays, a few selected birthdays for January 7th through January 13th, 2018. On January 7th, Nicolas Cage, who's
The ubiquitous actor who's in everything. At
Exactly.
least that's the meme.
that's the meme. Yeah, it's almost as bad as the Kevin Bacon meme. You know.
Oh, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Exactly. Nicolas Cage in everything.
I know.
Max Reinhardt, who was in
Sense8.
Sense8, yep. Francis Poulenc, who wrote, most famous for the opera Dialogues of the Carmelites, as well as a number of other things. Beautiful music, fabulous music, but I don't care for the story of Dialogue? Of the Carmelites.
Well, the story is pretty grim, I will admit.
It is pretty grim. I have maybe a second watching will cure that. Who knows? Also on January 7th, Robert Sheehan, who we saw in Song of Sway Lake.
Aha.
And we also have on January 7th, Mr. Hamish Downey. Happy birthday,
Mr.
Hamish.
News Sushi himself.
Absolutely.
Plus,
As well as
filmmaker.
everything.
Yeah.
Hamish has done everything. Living
Yeah.
in Japan, teaching.
I'm really anxious to take a look at that feature-length film that he did in, 3 days, was it?
Yeah. Also, Millie Mahoney Delakila.
Mildred.
Yes. Happy birthday, Millie. January 8th, Elvis is still in the building. Oh, Stephen Hawking, David Bowie, William Hartnell, and Graham Chapman.
Word.
Yeah.
What? That's a nice little January 8th celebration.
Yeah, I am your king.
No, I didn't vote for you.
How did you get to be king? I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for king.
How
Here we
did
go
you become
again.
king then?
Lady of the Lake. No, we're
January
not
9th.
going down that road again.
January 9th, Bob Denver.
You know, he's John Denver's older brother.
Yes, he is. And he was on an island.
Yeah. That's why we never heard from him.
Exactly. Joan Baez and Jimmy Page. January 10th, Rod Stewart. Wow, there's a lot of musicians born in January. Rod Stewart, Jim Croce, Pat Benatar, and Jermaine Clement. Jermaine Clement was Flight of the Conchords, and he was also Shiny in Moana. He was the crab. Yep.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. January 11th, Alexander Hamilton, a good friend of ours, Tanner Chavez.
Happy birthday, Tanner.
And a dear old friend of mine, Jim McGurk, who has sadly passed away a number of years ago. A happy birthday to Jim. January 12th, Howard Stern.
Yeah, who still is really as controversial and divisive as ever.
Exactly. Jeff Bezos, Rob Zombie, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who started the Transcendental Medication movement back in the 60s.
The medication movement?
The medication movement, yes. Let's medicate with transcendental medication.
I want to make sure that's what I heard you say, yeah.
Yes, transcendental medication. It transcends all medication.
Transcends all medicine, yeah.
Also on January 12th, Tommy Cannon, Mr. Dr. Zombie himself.
Yeah. So that's two people of the TG Geeks staff, if you
Yeah.
will, whose birthdays are celebrating this week.
And also on January 12th, a French filmmaker that we met at Phoenix Comic-Con a number of years ago, Sylvain Drouard. I hope that's how you say his name.
I believe that is correct.
Yes. January 13th, Liam Hemsworth, Charles Nelson Riley, Gwen Verdon, What Lola Wants, Lola Gets, and William B. Davis.
You know, he is actually Alice B. Davis's husband.
Is he really?
Not.
Not, yes.
Not.
You know William B. Davis, he's a cancer man.
Cancer Man,
and
yeah,
he was
from
also
X-Files.
Yeah, and also in,
was in Continuum.
Continuum, yes. Yep. He was the old...
the kid, the older version, the adult. Yeah.
And also on January 13th, to round it all out, Ms. Beth Cato.
She just made some moose farts.
Yes. It's a concoction, so of what is it?
You read it.
It was evaporated milk or condensed milk, butter, coconut, chocolate chips and graham cracker crumbs. That's what it was. That's a moose fart.
What did you tell her?
I said, a moose once bit my sister. Yes, as we continue on with the...
We can never escape the Python meme.
Never. And that's it for the birthdays this time. Greetings, programs.
And applications. I'm Ben.
And I am Keith, and we are
The Two Gay Geeks.
We are the nerds behind TG Geeks Webcast.
Where we talk about sci-fi,
Comics,
film,
horror,
genre.
you name it, we talk about it.
We release an episode every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern.
You can find us on iTunes, Blueberry, Spreaker, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Also, look us up on YouTube. And of course,
We can be found at tggeeks.com, where you can find not only our webcast,
but articles about other geeky goodness.
so come along for the wildest ride in the potosphere.
Did you just say potosphere?
I did. Go give a listen to
us.
us.
What were you about to say?
Over. I got tickled.
Yeah.
Anyway, give us a. I can't say it anymore.
Just move on.
Just move on.
There's nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Are you ready for this?
About as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, take it away.
All right, and it's feedback time. So, starting with episode 195, we had feedback from David Lee Summers. And he says, I had a terrific time chatting with you. Looking forward to our next chance to catch up. And I got a comment from Brooks Powell, who also said, I can't wait to listen to this.
Yay.
Then we had a review for The Problems That Arise When They Have Their Boy Erased. This is a movie review that we ran. Got a comment from Deanne Smolnicki Fleming, and she writes, great review, thank you. Got another comment from Luke Tercy, and he says, thanks, Ben. Was planning to see it anyway. Now I'm excited to see it. And then a comment from Joan Agius, I'm guessing, and Joan said, excellent review, thank you. And then Ginger Gottskalk, I'm guessing that's how the name is pronounced, said, Ben Raggington, awesome review. Thank you very much. And then we did a little sort of a tribute to Stan Lee since he had passed away. Got a number of comments there. Got the first one from Joel Harper, and he says, oh, no. Got a comment from a friend of mine, John Ison. He says, I'm so sorry. Got a comment from Gary Lindros, friend of the show, and he says, yeah, this hits harder than I expected. This one really surprised me. An old friend of mine from years ago, Julie Marshall, she says, hits hard for all of our family, too. Got a comment from Mark Ross, we've interviewed on the show, and he says, I already miss Stan. He was larger than life. And then my good old friend, good friend, Jim Fleckenstein.
Well, he's your age. So.
Well, he's a little younger than me.
Well, just
a tad
barely.
younger than me. But he wrote on Instagram, I have a cool memory of Stan Lee. I used to go to Comic-Con every year in the early 2000s when we lived in San Diego. One year I saw Stan Lee walking around the floor alone. It was before the huge Marvel movies, so he wasn't as recognizable by most people like these days. When people did recognize him, they tried to maintain, but their eyes showed they were having internal meltdowns. I followed him across the huge floor and just watched people react to him. I never approached him, just watched people pop their head up and react at the sight of him. My description may not translate how fun it was, but I was thoroughly entertained for about 20 minutes until he reached his destination. The people's expressions were hilarious to me. I'm sure they were.
Yeah, you can see the people's heads popping up.
Well, of course they were.
In the
Yeah.
whole scheme of things, yeah.
And now, as promised, we have some feedback. Voicemail from
A
good friend
voicemail?
Corey.
Yeah. I'll talk about it after we play it.
Hey, it's Corey. Thank you for the birthday shout-out at episode 198. Hope you guys are having an awesome vacation this December. And I just love the banter that you guys have for each other and the respect. So keep it up. Thank you again. Bye.
Cool.
Yeah, that was from Corey, and she left that voicemail. I think we were right in the middle of oh gosh, we were in the middle of Disney World, and she called. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I
fact-
remember
in fact,
where we were when
And-
you got that message.
Yeah, and it our voicemail line forwards to my phone, and I sometimes pick it up and sometimes I don't. I saw it was Corey, so I didn't know if something was going on, so I answered it.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, I got you. I was trying to leave a voicemail for the show." I said,
Right.
"Oh, okay.
Call back."
I'll hang up and you can call back and leave the voicemail."
Weren't we like in the transportation center when that happened, I think?
Yeah, something like that. I don't recall where we were.
Yeah, I think we were in the transportation center when that call came in.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So that is our comments. You can leave a comment for us and on our Facebook page, and you can like that page. You can comment on our YouTube episodes or at tggeeks.com on any article or any episode, and you could receive a shout out on a future episode. You also have the listener feedback line. So if you want to call and leave a voicemail, you can be played on air like Corey's was. That's 469-TG-GEEKS. And that's 469-844-3357. And as always, we always say, please play nice.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Sounds like Jim Steinman's been writing for our show.
Yeah, there's something new for the second segment. This time on our second segment, we've got a few things to discuss about the show and about the website and just kind of general housekeeping stuff for the new year. We have updated the website. Actually, we did that on December 31st, sometime in the middle of the afternoon, and added a new theme that is a little more interactive for folks so that you don't have to go searching for things. We got stuff that's right there, the banner. We've got menus right up at the top. We've got a number of different things that are presented for you to look at. The podcast is featured prominently, and the most recently posted article is right there as you come into the website. So you can take a look at that, and there's lots of other content down there. We still have our widgets on the right-hand side with all the people that we like and stuff that we want you to take a look at, all authors and friends, etc. So
I think from an organizational standpoint, it looks so much better than it used to.
Yeah, and we want to know what you think of the website and the way it looks. If you want to leave a comment on any article or on the webcast episode, in the comments, you can do that. You can do that on Facebook. You can do it on Twitter, etc. If you don't want to be mentioned, if it's just a comment about the website or whether you like it or don't like it or suggestions or anything, you can put a little tag in there that do hashtag NFB, no feedback.
No feedback.
And we'll not put it in the feedback, so you don't have to worry about any of that. So just let us know what you think of the website. I think it's pretty good. We're still working out some of the kinks, so bear with us for the next month or so until we figure it all out. But for the most part, it all seems to be working pretty good. And if there's new content or any content that you would like to see, we would love to know about that. Also, we're always looking for new contributors. You can leave us an email or send us an email through the Contact Us page.
And I want to say, it doesn't have to be somebody who is a regular contributor like Hamish or Tommy Cannon. I mean, you could do the occasional one-off. I mean, Arkle has done a one-off for us. David Wagner in San Diego, he's done a couple of reviews just because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Tom...
Gulbranson.
Thank you. I couldn't get it out of my mouth. He did a couple of things for us, including one really nice little love letter about Robotech. So it could be a one-off. If you feel like you've got something you could contribute regularly, you can do that too.
Yeah, and we're always in the lookout for, or on the lookout for people that have some very specific things that they want to write about, and we kind of have been talking about we need somebody in the gaming industry or knows the gaming industry, or that can do maybe a monthly column on the gaming, whether it's tabletop gaming or any kind of gaming. It would be nice to do that. So get all of those things in the works. We're looking forward to 2019 being a big year, a banner year. Yeah, we're onward and upward to infinity and beyond. Yes. And a couple of changes to the podcast. Obviously, you heard the Arcade Hero intro that we did for this second segment. The Meanwhile that we did.
Yeah, that caught me by surprise.
There's a couple of other things that we're looking at. I had considered changing the intro music, but I'm thinking not, because
I kind of like it.
So many people identify podcasts by their intro music.
Right.
And so
I wouldn't want to change that.
Maybe the outro or some of the other music, interstitial stuff that we do. Let us know what you think. If there's additional items or content or discussion that you would like to see on the podcast, let us know about that too. And we want to know what you think. Please leave us feedback. We love the feedback, as you can tell. We've still got feedback from back before the vacation, I think.
Oh yeah,
and even during the vacation,
it has accumulated. I've got a list on it, so yeah, we'll be getting to it.
And last but not least on this, I've been considering doing a Patreon. I've kind of resisted, as I've said many times, we've resisted ads in the middle of the podcast. We've resisted ads, that take away from our content. The only thing that we do is ads at the bottom and on the widgets on the side of the website. But this all comes out of our pocket. So anything helps. To click on the widgets or click on the Amazon ads helps us a little bit. We get a few pennies here and there. But we're contemplating doing a Patreon. Let us know if you think we should, what good and bad, whether you would support that, and what you think would be good perks for this podcast. And we'll just leave it there. Please do comment. Once again, hashtag NFB if you don't want it in the feedback. And thanks for listening to our show.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
And now for our weekly review, we actually have something that we can put
talk
in.
about.
Yeah,
because anyway, so starting with December 30th, Andrea's Angle. She did a movie. She reviewed Bad Santa. We also had Dr. Zombie, Monster Family Physician number 29. On New Year's Eve, there was episode 202 of the TG Geeks. Who are they?
I don't know.
And then on New Year's Day, there was Jeannie's Christmas Classics. She reviewed both Red and Red 2.
Because they had snow in them.
Oh, was that it? Okay. On January 2nd, Wednesday, there was Andrea's Angle. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So there. On Thursday, January 3rd, Andrea's Angle again, this time with Bad Santa 2. On Friday the 4th, New Sushi, Morsels of News from Japan and Beyond, number 44. And then Jeannie also had her comments about Die Hard and Die Hard 2, and she does comment about whether it's Christmas or not.
Yes.
And finally, on Saturday, January 5th, a little restaurant review. Breakfast at Dooze's Kitchen can't be beat.
Yeah, that was Deuce's Kitchen is really great. And
You had breakfast there twice. I just found out. I
know.
read the review.
yeah, I went over with Gordon one morning.
I was working that day.
Yes, you were working. You can find all these things and other articles and other content at tggeeks.com, as well as entries on our Facebook page. Please visit and comment. And now it's time for our follow-up items. We've kind of cut that down a little bit. We want you to check out our restaurant reviews, new category. Obviously, we had Deuce's Kitchen. We're going to be doing a couple of reviews from restaurants that we ate at Disney World on our vacation. And we'll have several other restaurant reviews as they come up. And as everybody knows, we're huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Please buy their stuff. And if you're at a con, please have cash for them. They don't need to pay the extra 2% or 5% or whatever it is just to have the credit card be run. Please consider supporting independent creators.
Special shout out to the Human Arkle on Twitter. He posts the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News, which republishes our content, and you can find him on Twitter. He is at Arkle, A-R-K-L-E. And speaking of Arkle, he is on YouTube, Arkle Studios, with the Shameless Cash Grab. Check that out when you get a chance. Also, we have to give a shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. With special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, for giving us permission and his blessings to post our stuff there.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we are now on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Anchor, as well as all the other places. Yeah.
That's the new one, huh?
Yep, as well as all the places that other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays. And listen to their other content. They have got lots of stuff going on. Please rate us and review us on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Up next week, we've got Zach Noe Towers, who we talked to previously about Killer Friends, a film that he did. But he's got a new series coming out, so stay tuned for that. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Peace.
Cheers.